She didn't tell me to stay, not at first. She just looked at me like she might, and that was somehow louder than words. I remember the light on her face. That thin, honeyed glow planes get when the sun is fighting its way through the last layer of clouds. She was standing in the aisle, one hand on the headrest, the other resting on her hip, calm, perfectly still in the shuffle of passengers grabbing bags and muttering about connections. I was the last row. Of course I was. Everyone else had already filed out when she glanced down at me, her expression unreadable, maybe tired, maybe curious. Her name tag caught the light, Lena, the smallest, simplest name, and it hit like a chord I hadn't heard in years. "Rough flight?" she asked. Her tone was professional, but there was a softness under it, the kind that made you answer honestly when you probably shouldn't. "Not really," I said. "Just didn't feel like getting up yet." She smiled, or something close to it. Her lips pressed together, eyes tracing me in a way that didn't feel like inspection, more like inventory. She was seeing something, weighing it. "You'll have to, eventually." "I know." I stayed seated anyway. The cabin was almost silent now. The hum of the air system, the click of her shoes against the floor. She moved down the aisle slowly, checking seat belts out of habit more than duty. The perfume she wore wasn't sweet, more grounded, something like cedar and orange peel. I caught it every time she passed my row and felt my heartbeat stumble out of rhythm. When she stopped beside me, I realized I was holding my breath. "You traveling alone?" "Yeah." Her eyes flicked toward my backpack, then back to me. "You look like you're still deciding where you're going." That one landed harder than it should have. She said it lightly, almost teasing, but it felt too accurate. Like she saw through the half-smile I'd been giving the world for months. "And you?" I asked before I could stop myself. "You ever feel like that?" A pause. The hum of the plane deepened, filling the space between us. She didn't look away right away. "Every day," she said finally. The words hung there, a confession she hadn't meant to give. Something shifted in her posture after that. A small exhale. A moment where her professional mask slipped just enough for me to see the fatigue, the distance, the quiet loneliness behind the practiced grace. She couldn't have been more than a few feet away, but the air between us felt dense, electric. I stood up then, more because I didn't know what else to do than because it was time to leave. Our hands brushed as I reached for my bag. It wasn't intentional. Not really. But she didn't pull away, and neither did I. Her skin was warm, steady, while mine felt like static. We both pretended it hadn't happened. "Gate agents will lock the door soon," she said, eyes somewhere near my shoulder. "Right?" But neither of us moved. The overhead lights dimmed slightly, automatic sensors switching to standby mode. The sound of footsteps outside faded. Just us. Just the low drone of the engines cooling. She turned toward the front, then stopped halfway, glancing back over her shoulder. "You can wait a minute," she said softly. "If you want." There was no reason to. And yet, somehow I sat back down. She disappeared behind the curtain near the galley. Just the faint rustle of fabric, the sound of a zipper, and then silence. When she came back, the cabin light caught the edge of her jaw, bare now, her hair slightly undone. "Stay after landing," she murmured. And before I could answer, the cockpit door opened with a metallic click. I didn't mean to see her again. That was supposed to be the point. Moments like that belong in motion, sealed in airplane air, forgotten once the wheels hit ground. But 2 nights later, I saw her again. Airport cafe. Same terminal. She was in uniform, hair pinned back this time, reading something on her phone and half smiling at whatever it was. I stood in line, pretending to care about coffee. She looked up once, caught me, didn't flinch. Just the smallest pause, recognition sliding into something else, something private. "Back already?" she said when I finally worked up the nerve to speak. "Could ask you the same," I said, then regretted how casual it sounded. She laughed once under her breath. "This job's a loop. You leave, you come back. Eventually you forget which part's home." Her tone was lighter, but her eyes weren't. There was a tiredness there that didn't come from hours, more like years. I asked if I could sit. She hesitated just long enough for me to feel it, then nodded toward the empty seat. We talked, or mostly I did. She listened, fingers curled around her cup like she needed something solid to hold on to. I told her I was finishing school, unsure what came next. She told me she'd been married once, long ago, and that flying kept her from thinking too much. There was a silence after that. Not awkward, more like neither of us trusted what might come out next. She looked down, tracing a drop of coffee with her finger along the table's edge. "You remind me of someone," she said quietly. "Who?" She didn't answer, just shook her head and changed the subject. Later, when the cafe started emptying, she reached for her bag and her sleeve brushed my hand. I didn't move mine away, but she did. Slow, careful, like she'd burned herself. "This can't look like anything," she said, not looking up. "It doesn't have to." Her mouth twitched. Not a smile, not quite. "That's not how people see things." She stood but didn't leave. The way she looked at me made my throat tighten. That mix of want and warning, like she was already rehearsing her apology for something we hadn't done yet. "Walk me to the gate?" she asked finally. So I did. We didn't say much on the way. Just the sound of her heels against the tile, the faint scent of her perfume keeping perfect pace beside me. When we reached her gate, she stopped, turned toward me and reached up, smoothing a wrinkle on my collar that didn't exist. Her hand stayed there longer than it should have. "You should be careful with women who forget where home is," she whispered. I wanted to ask if she was warning me or herself, but she was already stepping back, eyes softer now, voice low enough only I could hear. "Still thinking about staying after landing?" She smiled, and before I could answer, her hand brushed mine. A touch that said everything words couldn't. Then she turned away, leaving the scent of orange and cedar hanging in the air, and me standing there, feeling every inch of the space she just walked out of. It started with a text I wasn't supposed to get. "Gate C12 delayed 2 hours. Coffee?" I didn't think twice. My hands were already typing on my way before my head caught up. She was sitting by the window when I found her. Uniform jacket folded neatly beside her, hair loose this time, like she'd given up pretending to be untouchable. The night lights of the runway blinked against the glass, flashing over her face every few seconds like a heartbeat. "You're going to make this a habit," she said as I sat down. "I don't think I mind," I said. Her lips curved, but it wasn't quite a smile. "You should." We talked about nothing, or tried to. The kind of half-conversations people have when they're circling something bigger. Every now and then, her hand would move, brushing the table, her fingers stopping just shy of mine. Each time, my chest tightened, waiting for the space to close. Then her phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a name, Mark, ops supervisor. And her face changed. She silenced it fast, eyes darting to mine. "Work," she said quickly, too quickly. "They monitor things." I nodded, though I didn't believe her. Something in her tone was off, too sharp, too defensive. The air felt heavier now. "You don't owe me explanations," I said quietly. "I know," she replied, but her voice caught just enough for me to hear the truth buried under it. A pause stretched between us. The sound of a jet taking off filled the silence. When she finally looked at me again, something in her had softened. "You're too young for this kind of complication. Maybe I don't care." She exhaled, a shaky breath that said she'd been holding back more than she wanted to admit. Her gaze dropped to my mouth for half a second before she looked away, and that was all it took for my pulse to stumble. A cleaning staffer passed by, nodding politely, and Lena straightened fast, her professional mask snapping back into place. She stood, pretending to adjust her uniform. "We should—" "Yeah," I said, standing too, but neither of us moved. The window reflected our faces back at us, her eyes searching mine trying not to betray too much. We were close enough now that I could feel her breath against my cheek. The smell of her perfume was fainter tonight, worn down by hours and airports, but it was still her, familiar, impossible to mistake. Her fingers brushed against my wrist, just once, barely a touch, but it was enough to make the world tilt slightly out of balance. She whispered, almost to herself, "This shouldn't happen. Then why are we here?" Her throat moved as she swallowed, her lips parting like she might answer. She didn't. The loudspeaker broke the moment, her flight number echoing through the terminal. She stepped back, eyes down, voice suddenly steady again. "I have to go." I should have let her. Should have watched her walk away like it was nothing. Instead, I reached for her hand, just for a second, just enough to make her stop. She turned back, looked at me with that same quiet ache I'd seen the first night on the plane. For a heartbeat, neither of us breathed. Then she whispered, "Don't wait for me." But her fingers stayed tangled with mine until the final boarding call forced them apart. I found her outside the terminal this time, leaning against a concrete pillar, jacket draped over one arm, the night pressing close around her. The streetlights cast a soft orange haze, catching in her hair, turning it almost copper. She didn't look surprised to see me, just tired and relieved. "I thought I told you not to wait," she said, voice low. "You also told me to stay," I answered. That got the smallest flicker of a smile, the kind that doesn't last because it isn't supposed to. The wind shifted, carrying the smell of jet fuel, wet pavement, and something faintly sweet from her perfume. She shivered once, maybe from the cold, maybe not. I took off my jacket and held it out. She hesitated, then slipped her arms through without meeting my eyes. "Thanks," she murmured, pulling it tight. "You shouldn't be here." "Then tell me to leave," I said. Her silence stretched. The air between us tightened. Finally, she said, "You don't know what this would look like. Me like this. You, just starting out." "I know what it feels like," I said. That did something to her. Her jaw shifted, and she turned slightly away, blinking hard. "You think this is about feeling? I've already lived through what comes after that." The words hit sharp, but not cruel. Just honest. Regret wrapped in warning. She pressed a hand against her temple, exhaling. "You remind me what it was like before I started guarding every part of myself. And that's dangerous." Finished. Her eyes lifted, finally meeting mine. Yes. We stood there, no more than a breath apart. I could see the faint lines near her eyes, the small tremor in her fingers. Real things. Human things. I reached up, slow, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She didn't move, not forward, not back. Just closed her eyes for half a second like the touch hurt and helped at the same time. "Tell me you don't want this," I whispered. She opened her eyes then, and whatever was left of the mask she wore was gone. "That's not the problem." Her hand found my chest, fingertips resting there like she was testing the rhythm of my heart. I could feel hers too, fast, unsteady, against my arm where she leaned, too close now to call it accidental. "You'll regret this," she said softly. "Maybe," I breathed, "but not tonight." The distance between us collapsed in fragments. A step, a breath, a glance that lasted too long. She tilted her head slightly, and I felt her whisper before I heard it. "God, you don't know what you're doing to me." Then, headlights swept across the curb. A car horn, her crew shuttle pulling up to the curb. She blinked, reality slamming back into place. "Lena," she pressed a finger to my lips. "Don't. Not here." Her hand lingered a heartbeat longer, trembling just slightly. Then she turned toward the van, her voice shaking when she said, "Next time, don't come." But she didn't look back when she got in. And I didn't move. Still standing there, her warmth on my skin, the word "next time" echoing like a promise neither of us believed we could keep. 3 days passed before I heard from her again. Long enough to convince myself it was over, that she'd drawn the line and meant it. Then came the voicemail. "You shouldn't have seen that message the other night," she said, voice unsteady. "It wasn't from work. It was from my ex. I thought I deleted it. He still calls when he's had too much to drink. I didn't want you to think." Silence. A shaky breath. "Forget it. Just, if you're in the terminal again, don't make it look like you know me." Click. The message ended, but it didn't. It lingered. Every pause, every unsaid word sinking deep. I went to the terminal anyway. She was there, at the gate counter, smile locked in place for passengers who didn't notice the glassy look in her eyes. When she saw me, it flickered the smallest crack. After her flight boarded, she slipped out the side door, into the narrow service corridor. I followed, my footsteps echoing just enough to give me away. "You shouldn't be back here," she said when she turned. "You knew I would be." Her sigh came out like surrender. "You heard the voicemail." "I did." She nodded once, eyes down. "Then you know I've made bad decisions before. You think this is one of them? I think I can't afford another." The corridor light buzzed above us. A cold draft ran through, carrying that faint citrus scent I'd come to crave. She was close enough that I could see the pulse in her neck. Fast, uneven. "I wasn't lying about what I felt," she said. "But I can't let this happen." "Then stop it." Her eyes lifted to mine. Wet, sharp, full of something she didn't want to name. "You think I haven't tried?" The tension in her voice cracked something in me. I stepped forward. She stepped back, her shoulder brushing the wall. "Lena," I said quietly, "you keep pretending you're protecting me, but you're just scared." Her breath hitched. "You don't know what it's like being the one who should know better." "Then teach me," I said. That did it. Her hand came up fast. Not a slap, not quite. She pressed her palm against my chest, pushing once, but not hard enough to make me move. Her fingers stayed there, trembling. "Don't make this harder," she whispered. "It already is." She closed her eyes, her forehead resting just shy of my shoulder, breathing shallow. "He still calls because I never learned how to let go properly. Every time I think I can, I find someone like you, and it starts again." Her confession hit somewhere deep, heavy. I reached up, almost without thinking, brushing my fingers along her jaw. Her breath caught. Her hand slid from my chest to my arm, gripping tight. Not to pull me closer, but to hold herself steady. "This can't end well," she said, eyes opening, pupils wide. "Maybe not," I said. "But it can't end here." She stared at me a long second, something fierce breaking through the fear. Then she nodded once, slow, as if sealing something neither of us could undo. "After my next flight," she whispered. "Gate 9. Midnight." And then she was gone, leaving me in the echoing corridor, pulse racing, the word midnight burning like a fuse. The terminal was nearly empty when I found her. Gate 9, just like she'd said. Midnight. Only the vending machines hummed. A row of silent seats, the ghost light of arrival boards flickering overhead. She sat by the window again, staring out at the runway lights, fingers laced in her lap. When she turned, I saw it, that small, fragile relief that only comes when you've run out of reasons to keep pretending. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said. "I wasn't sure you'd still be here." Her laugh was quiet, tired. Neither was I. I sat beside her, close enough to feel the warmth of her through the air. The silence between us wasn't awkward anymore. It was heavy, filled with every almost touch, every unfinished sentence. For a long time, we just watched the empty tarmac. A cleaning cart passed in the distance. The hum of its wheels filled the space our words couldn't. Then she said, "I told myself if you showed up, I'd end it clean. Say goodbye. Make it sound like I mean it. And," she turned to me, "you're here. So that plan's already gone." Her hand brushed mine, slow, unplanned, and the contact sent a sharp jolt up my arm. I didn't move. Neither did she. The tips of her fingers rested there like they belonged, tracing the faint line between reason and want. "You have no idea what this costs me," she whispered. "Then don't pay it alone." Her breath caught. The air between us changed, thick, unsteady, alive. She leaned in, just enough that I could feel the warmth of her exhale on my skin. "I've spent years keeping people at arm's length," she said. "Passengers, friends, everyone. You shouldn't have made it this far." I reached up, my hand hovering near her face. Not touching yet, waiting for something, permission maybe. Her eyes met mine. "If you touch me," It changes everything. I know. And for once, she didn't pull away. My fingers grazed her cheek, soft, trembling. She closed her eyes, leaning into the touch like she'd been starving for it. The scent of her, that faint orange and cedar, felt burned into my lungs. Then her hand rose, cupping the back of my neck, drawing me closer until our foreheads touched. No words, just the rhythm of two people holding on when they shouldn't. I can't promise you anything, she whispered. I'm not asking for forever, I said. Just right now. Her lips parted. Not a kiss yet, just a breath shared in the small space between us. The world outside disappeared. No flights, no clocks, no pasts to answer for. Then she pulled back half an inch, eyes glistening. You'll go on, she said softly. And someday this will feel like something that saved you, not something that broke you. Her hand slipped from my neck, resting against my chest. You make me remember who I was before I got lost. And you make me want to find you, I said. The announcement board flickered. A new flight, another city. She stood, the decision written in her posture, calm but trembling. I have to go, she said. I know. She turned toward the gate, then paused, looking back with a small, unguarded smile. Thank you for not letting me stay numb. I watched her walk away until she disappeared into the jet bridge light, and for the first time I understood. It wasn't about staying after landing. It was about learning how to take off again. I didn't see her for a month. I tried to move on. Threw myself into work, friends, anything that didn't smell like jet fuel or orange peel. But sometimes, when a plane passed overhead, I'd stop without meaning to. That sound had her name in it. Then one afternoon, I was boarding a flight to Chicago, and there she was. Different uniform, hair shorter. She looked lighter somehow, not untouched, but unburdened. Our eyes met across the aisle, and everything I'd tried to pack away came rushing back. She blinked once, then smiled, small, private, like we were still in that quiet terminal with no one else around. When the plane leveled out, she came by with the drink cart. She didn't speak at first, just set a cup of coffee on my tray. Black, no sugar, the way I'd ordered it once before. Still staying after landing? She asked softly, barely audible over the hum of the engines. I was hoping to, I said. That got her. A flicker of emotion across her face, half a laugh, half a sigh. You always were bad at letting go. I learned from the best, I said. She lingered a moment too long. The aisle behind her was clear. Her hand brushed mine as she took the empty cup, fingertips sliding against my skin. Deliberate this time. I have a long layover, she said. Gate 23. No smile. Just that line dropped between us like a challenge or a chance. Gate 23 was quiet, half-lit. The rain outside blurred the windows, turning the runway lights into watercolor. She was sitting by the glass again, jacket draped across her knees. You came, she said. So did you. She stood, closing the space between us. No hurry. Just two people who'd finally stopped pretending the pull between them wasn't real. I told myself it was wrong, she said. Too much difference, too much risk. But every time I tried to forget, I'd catch myself looking for you in a crowd. I stepped closer until her voice dropped to almost nothing. And now, she breathed out slowly, eyes searching mine. Now I'm just tired of pretending I don't feel what I feel. My hands found hers, tentative at first. Her fingers fit like they'd been waiting. She laughed quietly, the sound low, rough around the edges. You shouldn't make me feel 20 again, she whispered. You shouldn't make me feel older, I said. Her forehead rested against mine. No rush, no spark to chase, just warmth. The kind that settles in. You're not supposed to stay after landing, she murmured. I know, I said. But maybe some flights aren't meant to end. She smiled then. A real one, tired and soft and entirely hers. Her hand brushed the side of my face, thumb tracing a line along my jaw. No grand kiss, no fireworks, just her leaning into me, her head against my shoulder, the steady rhythm of two people choosing calm over chaos. Outside, The rain slowed. The terminal lights dimmed. We stayed like that until boarding began again. Neither of us moving, both knowing that for the first time, staying felt right. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?